Charlie Woods was only Tiger's son for years. He was a shadow, a name with weight but no evidence. Golfers muttered, "Is he capable of playing? Or is this really a free pass for the legend's child?" With each tee shot he took, that question hung over him like fog. However, then something took place. A roar replaced the murmurs, and everything was altered by what they found. This was no longer hype. History was being revealed. Charlie Woods accomplished something that most golfers never do in their lifetimes at the age of 16. He did it flawlessly twice. Afton Blott claims that in only 9 months, Charlie sunk his second hole-in-one. Consider that. Before he's even old enough to legally drive a vehicle in most places, he has to make 2 flawless swings and 2 flawless shots. This was no accident. This was accurate. Except in cases when someone is swinging a club, lightning never strikes the same location again. There has just been a strong warning to the golf world. For decades, golfers have boasted about the rarity of hole-in-ones. But you know this isn't a typical tale when a teenager hoards them like awards. This isn't a coincidence. It's a declaration. Charlie's shot broke the stillness and said to the audience, "I'm not here to copy. My goal is to rule." The echoes continued beyond the green. They went through each locker room and clubhouse. People ceased inquiring as to whether he was Tiger's son. They began asking far riskier questions. Will the next Woods era begin now? That's the change. Charlie transformed from inquisitive to competitive overnight. The child now casts his own shadow, having previously stood in his father's. A moment is a hole-in-one. 9 months with 2 hole-in-ones is a danger sign. Additionally, golf needed to pay notice because, if this is only the beginning, just think of what can happen next. The noise has only just begun, but it is becoming louder every day. Charlie Woods has already experienced the darkness that accompany every ascent. Chapter 2 is about difficulty, while Chapter 1 was about brilliance. The type of battle that has the power to either shape or shatter you. Charlie was put to the test on a course where no young golfer wants to make a mistake. Just before his renowned father. Although the word Woods refers to a crown, it may also seem like chains. The media kindly described Charlie's performance in a junior competition as a horror show. He seemed like a child drowning in expectations, missing putts, and sprinkling strokes as he broke under pressure, according to The Sun. And Tiger Woods, the guy whose shadow covers every blade of grass, was observing from a few feet away. Charlie continues to walk. Consider that weight. Not all missed putts are your fault. The name that is embroidered on your backpack feels betrayed. It wasn't only a poor round. The humiliation took place in public. However, most tales end here. A day like that wounds, timidizes, and shrinks many people. No, Charlie. Rather of becoming smaller, he returned with a vengeance. His horror show became a highlight reel as he surprised the field with birdie after birdie in the very following round. Redemption was scrawled in ink on his card. A child who didn't want to be defined by failure or fold. That is how hype and legacy vary from one another. How you react when everyone is watching you and the lights are at their brightest. Golf is more than simply skill. It's about wounds, healing, and the silent times when nobody thinks you can get better. There was more to Charlie's recovery than golf. It was about perseverance and demonstrating to both the outside world and to himself that he was more than simply Tiger's kid. He was resilient enough to withstand the heat. And if a 6-year-old can manage that type of fire, just think of what he'll accomplish as the heat increases. There comes a time in every nascent career when the world finally pays attention and the murmurs cease. That time for Charlie Woods arrived in Florida. It was dubbed the greatest victory of his young life by the New York Post. When Tiger Woods' kid showed up for a tournament, he stunned the whole field. This was not inherited. Stroke by stroke, this was earned. Despite being rated 604th in the world, he joins the squad with a custom invitation. He wasn't meant to frighten anybody on paper. However, golf is not a game played on paper. Charlie set that course on fire when the competition was fierce. There were a lot of birdies. The opposition fell apart. By the last hole, more than just Tiger's youngster was being watched by the spectators. They watched as a woodsman rewrote his own narrative. His father's identity was no longer the question. It was the question of who would stop him. This is when things start to become serious, however. Despite the triumph's grandeur, Charlie wasn't unbeatable. He still didn't make the U.S. Junior Ardor Cup squad, as Golf Monthly reminded us. The lesson that excellence isn't a straight line came from that rejection. It zigzags. It penalizes. It makes you more modest. Additionally, it demonstrated to Charlie that the ascent never ends, even in success. Since golf is the longest war of all, winning one battle does not equate to winning the war. The fact that this pivotal moment covered all sides of the issue is what gave it such strength. His failed Ryder Cup place kept him grounded, but the game-changing triumph hushed the skeptics. He is not a product of hype, it was shown. He's still developing, an adolescent discovering the harsh cycle of achievement and failure. Furthermore, there's something more hazardous than undeveloped skill in that equilibrium. Hunger. For nothing feeds a forest like unresolved issues. Charlie still has a lot of it to burn. Numbers are honest. And the standings took an unexpected turn when Charlie Woods stunned the golf world with his greatest victory. They detonated. The Times of India claims that Charlie did more than just go up the ladder. In the World Junior Rankings, he shot up to 14th place from 64th. That isn't advancement. It's an earthquake. The type that shakes a sport's very basis. Consider it. Charlie soared over hundreds of names that had been vying for a spot for years in the space of one triumph. These weren't players on the weekends. They were experienced competitors with credentials based on consistent performance and highly rated juniors. However, Tiger Son's amazing performance for a week sent shockwaves across their domain. It wasn't only an increase, an announcement was made. Woods is the source of golf's latest issue. For the competition, however, this is what makes it even more scary. Even though he is just 16, he is already rated among the world's top juniors. At that age, the majority of golfers are still developing their ability to cope with pressure. They are still discovering who they are. Charlie has previously shown that he can falter in the limelight and then recover, shown that he can outperform a talented field. Now, the statistics support that. He isn't a talent waiting for an opportunity. He is a contestant looking to the future. Rankings also show trajectory rather than simply competence. It's more than simply a jump from 64th to 14th. It's a prediction, an indication that this child is headed for greatness. That going forward, expectations will be equally as important as experience in every event he competes in. He will no longer be seen by opponents as Tiger's son. They will see him as the young person who is already rising through the ranks. Because you are feared rather than ignored when the stats scream this loudly. Connect the dots. Before turning 17, there were 2 hole-in-ons. The bold bounce back after collapsing under duress. The breakthrough victory over top competitors. The change in the global rankings from 6,004th to 14th place. There is an inevitable truth at the end of each chapter. Charlie Woods has evolved beyond being Tiger's kid. He is a rising star who is forging his own path. Furthermore, G is only now realizing how perilous that island is, as inheritance is not the subject of this tale. It has to do with evolution. Tiger Woods already revised the game's regulations: dominance, strength, and accuracy. The name Woods now connotes a new generation, a sequel that no one ever imagined was feasible, and a new edge. What happens if a guy who has previously changed a sport writes a second chapter with his son? History intensifies rather than repeats itself. Here's the twist, however. Tiger's not Charlie. He is developing in a new period with more illumination, with each shot being instantaneously shown and evaluated. The pressure never stops. There are many analogies. However, it seems to be empowering him rather than shattering him. Every error serves as a teaching moment. Every win turns into a signal, and each leaderboard figure supports the notion that golf is more than simply a sport for another celebrity. It is seeing into the future. Even though the name on his bag is well known, the narrative is entirely original. Thus, like thunder in the distance, the issue persists. What is Charlie Woods' limit? Will he expand the name's reach or create an empire of his own that not even his father could have predicted? It has yet to be answered. However, all of the indicators, data, and situations suggest the same thing. This goes beyond a child following in his father's footsteps. It is a competitor with the potential to alter the course of events for the next generation. And golf will be very different when that time comes.